And here's something that's a little bit of good news. I know we could all use some good news. There's a good chance you already saw this yesterday, but I wanted to talk about it. Chelsea Manning. Well, first of all, this is not the good news part. This is the pretty bad news part. A couple days ago, Chelsea Manning attempted suicide. The good news part is that she's been released. That's the good news part. So here we go. And let's see here. Chelsea Manning freed again. That's the good news. But her refusal to testify comes with a $256,000 price tag. Chelsea Manning will be released from federal detention, but her freedom comes with a court debt of $256,000, such as the price of resisting a subpoena. So here they rehash. Manning is famous for passing along archives of military documents to WikiLeaks while she worked as an Army intelligence analyst in Iraq. President Obama commuted her sentence, but her troubles weren't over. The Department of Justice was still trying to build a case against WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. It subpoenaed Manning and tried to force her to testify. So again, why were they holding Chelsea Manning? Because they wanted to force a confession out of her in regards to Julian Assange. They wanted her to say that Julian Assange helped her hack. Why? Because if they have that, that's the smoking gun they can use against Assange. Just publishing is not a crime. That's not a crime. But if he helped her, if Julian Assange helped her hack, oh, well, then that's a crime. And they can try to get Julian Assange on that. So they tortured Chelsea Manning to try to get her to say he helped her. And she didn't do it. So that's why they were holding Chelsea Manning. But now she's freed, which that is good news. Of course, it's good news that she's freed. The bad news is she recently had a suicide attempt. So she was driven to that point. She was tortured to the point where she tried to take her own life. And of course, more bad news, she owes about $250,000 for committing no crime. And I know some of you guys were asking, I tweeted about this, and some of you were asking, what can we do for her? So there's a number of sites out there, but apparently this is the one that Evan Greer recommends. Evan Greer, Fight for the Future recommends, and Fight for the Future, along with other organizations, have been very on top of what's been going on with Chelsea. So here's the GoFundMe. Important, Chelsea Manning is being released from jail, but she has to pay more than $250,000 in fines. This is the only official fundraiser to help her pay those fines. So, and I'm going to retweet this right now and try to make sure that when this clip goes out, we put a link in the comments as well, and in the description. Yeah, the link will be in the description. But I just retweeted this now too. So if you go on my Twitter at Placone, you can find this very easily to donate to Chelsea Manning if you are so able. I know it's a tough time for all of us. I know a lot of us are in situations right now where we can't work, where we may not have any money coming in, and it's very difficult. But you know, if you have a little bit to spare, maybe you can throw it Chelsea Manning's way. $250,000. After she had been tortured for 6 years, then her sentence was commuted. Then they threw her into solitary confinement, tortured her some more so they could get a false confession out of her. And she gets to pay $250,000 for that luxury. She should be given a hell of a lot more than $250,000. That's what should be happening. That $250,000 should be her first payment as a settlement for everything she's been through. And that should, in a just world, Chelsea Manning, and I know like no monetary amount can possibly compensate for what she's been through. I'm not suggesting that, and I think you guys realize that. But what I'm saying is, in a just world, at the very least, Chelsea Manning would never have to worry about money for the rest of her freaking life. Because the assault on press freedom this has been and continues to be is beyond disgusting. We shouldn't have to be happy that she's out of jail because she shouldn't be in jail in the first place. I started out saying this was good news, and it still is. She's free. That's the good part. But man, is it insane that we're in this situation. Man, is it beyond insane. She should be getting $250,000, not having to raise it. She should be getting it from our government as just one of payments for the rest of her life. That should have a note saying, we're so freaking sorry. That's what should happen in a just world. But sadly, that's not the world we live in. So it's good Chelsea Manning is free. But, of course, this blatant assault on press freedom continues, towards Chelsea Manning, towards Edward Snowden, towards Julian Assange. And I would really like to think that the history books will not smile fondly upon this. But as somebody pointed out to me on Twitter, unfortunately, history is written by the victors. So who knows, how this will look in the scheme of things. But I really hope that we evolve from this. And that, 10, 20 years from now, we're talking about how we were on the right side of this issue. And people say, oh, when it came to press freedom, were you for Julian Assange and Chelsea Manning? Yes, I was. Yes, I was. And we look back at that as a shameful period in human history that we have evolved from. And we now have policy in place to prevent something like that from ever happening again. I believe that's the world we can have. And we got to do everything we can to try to make that a reality.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your